You know how everyone always talks about wishing they bought Amazon stock back in the 90s? Well, today we're diving into what might be the next internet level revolution, blockchain technology. Just
Interesting.
specifically, we're going beyond Bitcoin, to explore the cryptocurrencies that are maybe going to reshape finance, tech, even the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to take the research that you've provided and
Right.
try to figure out which of these contenders,
Yeah.
might actually live up to all the hype.
Well, it's fascinating to see how this landscape is exploding. It wasn't that long ago, Bitcoin was the only name anyone even knew.
Right.
And now we have this whole universe of platforms.
Yeah.
All with different strengths and weaknesses,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's like the Cambrian explosion of the digital age.
I like that. That's a good analogy. So speaking of contenders, let's start with maybe the one that's often considered like the foundation of this whole movement,
Yeah.
Ethereum.
Ethereum is interesting because it's not just about money, right? Think of it like a global, always online computer, right? Anyone can use.
Okay.
And this is where the idea of smart contracts comes in. I'm sure you've read about that.
Yeah, I have, but honestly, the vending machine analogy, that one only gets me so far.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
What are some real-world applications of smart contracts? That would make sense to, like a regular person.
Sure, sure. Let's say you're buying a house.
Okay, okay.
Right now, there's a ton of paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Escrow agents, there's the potential for fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a headache, right?
Huge headache.
With smart contracts, the entire process could be automated.
Wow.
The terms of the sale are coded into the contract, right? Funds released automatically when conditions are met, and it's all transparent. It's tamper-proof on the blockchain.
Oh, okay.
No more waiting weeks for paperwork to clear or anything like that.
So it's not just cutting out like the middleman, you're cutting out the time.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. The hassle, all that stuff. I can see why developers are flocking to this.
Our source mentioned over 500,000 of them are active on Ethereum daily.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So what's the significance of having that many people working on a platform?
Well, it's a signal, right, of where the momentum is. That many developers means a constantly evolving ecosystem. More applications are being built, potentially faster innovation. It's like a self-reinforcing cycle.
Right.
More developers attract more users, which attracts more developers, and so on and so forth.
That's like a snowball effect.
It becomes this hub of activity,
Right.
which is reflected in the $200 billion locked into the Ethereum ecosystem.
Okay, so Ethereum has really established itself as the go-to platform, it seems like, for now.
Me too, so, yeah.
But what about its limitations? I've heard a lot about issues with speed,
Sure.
scalability, especially compared to some of the newer players.
Right. Well, you're right. I mean, that's the big trade-off right now, you see.
Yeah.
Ethereum's strength is in its maturity, its widespread use.
But its design can only handle around 30 transactions per second.
Oh, wow. That's it.
And that leads to slowdowns and higher fees, particularly when the network is congested.
Right. Yeah.
So imagine a highway suddenly getting jammed with traffic.
Yeah.
That's what can happen on Ethereum during peak times.
So if Ethereum is the busy highway, is there a blockchain equivalent of an express lane?
There are definitely platforms trying to be just that, right?
Okay.
One of them, which you provided some information about, is Solana.
Okay.
It's built with speed and efficiency in mind, like a high-speed rail compared to a regular train.
Okay. Color me intrigued. Just how much faster are we talking?
Well, Solana can process an impressive 65,000 transactions per second.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And remember those high fees on Ethereum we talked about?
Yeah.
Solana's average transaction fee is a fraction of a penny. It's designed to be, affordable, accessible for everyone.
That sounds almost too good to be true. Is Solana as reliable as Ethereum, though? Does it have the same level of, adoption?
Well, I mean, Solana's still relatively new, right?
Okay.
But it's growing rapidly. It's processing, millions of transactions daily.
Wow.
And over 1,000 developers are building on it.
Okay.
This is a key metric to watch because a thriving developer community means more innovation and more applications, right? It's like the early days of, app stores. The more apps, the more attractive the platform becomes.
Right, exactly, yeah. So we've got, the established giant
Right.
and then the speedy newcomer.
Yeah.
But what about the disruptor, the one that's trying to completely change the game?
Right.
That's where Sui comes in, right?
Sue is definitely shaking things up, yeah.
Okay.
They're not just trying to be faster, but
Yeah.
they're rethinking the whole architecture of blockchain.
Wow.
If Ethereum is like a combustion engine
Okay.
and Solana is electric, SUI is aiming for something like warp drive.
Okay, that's a bold claim.
It is.
Break it down for me. What makes SUI so revolutionary?
Well, one of the key innovations is their use of parallel processing. So imagine a factory where every worker can work on multiple tasks at the same time,
Right.
instead of waiting for each other to finish, right?
Right.
That's what SUI is doing with transactions,
Oh, okay.
allowing it to, like, theoretically hit 297,000 transactions per second.
Wow.
It's like comparing a single checkout line to a massive multi-lane toll booth, right?
That's a huge difference. But is SUI actually, like, live? Or is it just a promising idea on paper?
I mean, it's still early days, right?
Okay.
But the signs are promising. They've got a massive community forming on platforms like Discord.
Yeah.
And they're, actively encouraging developers to build on SUI through hackathons and grants. Think of them like a startup that's attracting a lot of early buzz and investment.
Right, right. All right, so we've got these three contenders, each with their own approach to blockchain technology. But they're all ultimately trying to do the same thing, right?
Oh.
How can we compare them in a way that makes sense for someone trying to understand which one might actually win out in the long run?
It's helpful to think of it, like comparing different modes of transportation.
Okay.
You got your, reliable but slow train. Maybe that's Ethereum.
Okay, yeah.
Your high-speed rail. Maybe that's Solana.
Okay.
And your, theoretical warp drive spaceship, which would be SUI.
Okay, yeah.
Which one is best depends on what you prioritize. Speed, cost, reliability, or future potential.
Okay, I like that. Let's break down those priorities then.
Okay.
First up, speed. We've already touched on this, but what are the hard numbers we're looking at?
Okay, so Ethereum clocks in at about 30 transactions per second, Solana at 65,000, and SUI claims a potential of 297,000.
Wow.
Now, keep in mind these numbers can fluctuate, depending on network conditions.
Right.
But it gives you a general idea of their processing power.
So SUI is way out in front if they can actually deliver on that.
That's right, yeah.
But what about the cost to actually use these platforms?
Oh, but this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Ethereum's fees have been notoriously high, sometimes reaching several dollars per transaction.
Really?
Solana, on the other hand, boasts incredibly low fees, often just a fraction of a cent. And SUI is aiming to be even cheaper, right?
Wow.
Think of it like comparing the cost of, shipping a package via snail mail versus overnight delivery versus, teleportation.
I like it.
The faster and more efficient, the less it generally costs.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So it sounds like Solana and SUI have a clear advantage on, the cost front.
For sure, yeah.
But what about the ecosystem?
Right.
Isn't Ethereum still the leader in terms of, actual projects being built and used?
Well, that's where Ethereum's maturity really shows, yeah.
Okay.
They have thousands of projects already live. Massive developer community. And that network effect we talked about earlier.
Right.
Solana is catching up quickly, though, with over 1,000 developers and hundreds of projects.
Okay.
SUI, being the newest, has the smallest ecosystem, but they're making a big push, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
To attract developers and encourage early adoption.
Right.
Like comparing a bustling city center to a rapidly growing suburb, you see,
Yeah.
to a newly founded frontier town.
This is a lot to process. It seems like each platform has its own strengths and weaknesses.
It does, it does.
But beyond the technical details, how are these blockchain technologies actually being used in the real world today? I mean, are we talking about more than just buying and selling crypto?
One of the most exciting areas is decentralized finance, or DeFi.
Okay.
It's essentially rebuilding traditional financial services, like lending, borrowing, and trading on the blockchain.
Oh, okay.
Imagine getting a loan, for instance, or earning interest without going through a bank. That's what DeFi is making possible.
So it's not just about replacing money, it's about replacing, the entire financial system.
Potentially, yeah.
That sounds both ambitious and honestly a little scary.
It's definitely disruptive, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there are certainly risks involved.
Right.
But the potential is huge, you see.
Okay.
DeFi is already a multi-billion-dollar market.
Really?
And it's growing rapidly.
Wow. Okay. So DeFi is a big deal, but what about applications beyond finance? What other areas are these blockchain technologies disrupting?
Well, gaming and NFTs are another huge area of growth. Blockchain is changing how we think about ownership of digital assets.
Okay.
Imagine owning a unique in-game item, for example, that you can actually trade or sell outside of the game.
Yeah, right.
That's the power of NFTs. And this is just the beginning. I mean,
Yeah.
we're seeing blockchain being applied to everything from supply chain management to healthcare to voting systems.
Wow.
It's truly a technology with the potential to reshape almost every aspect of our lives.
It sounds like we're like just scratching the surface of what's possible.
I think so, yeah.
But with any emerging technology, there are always risks.
How can someone who's interested in this space but also wants to be smart about it go about evaluating these projects?
Yeah.
Deciding where to focus their attention.
That's a great question, and it's something we'll delve into more deeply as we, continue this deep dive.
Okay.
But one of the most important things to remember is that not all blockchain projects are created equal, you see.
Right, of course, yeah.
Some are built on hype, some are poorly designed, and some simply won't be able to scale to meet real-world demands.
So how do we separate the wheat from the chaff?
Right.
What are the key things to look for when evaluating a blockchain project?
One of the most important factors is the team behind the project.
Okay.
Do they have a proven track record?
Right.
Do they have the technical expertise to deliver on their promises?
Yeah.
And are they actively engaging with the community?
Right.
A strong and experienced team is a good indicator of a project's potential for success.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What about the technology itself?
Are there certain, red flags to watch out for?
Absolutely. It's important to understand the underlying technology and assess its scalability, its security, its innovation.
Okay.
Does the project solve a real problem?
Right.
Does it offer a unique solution?
Yeah.
Or is it just another Me Too project trying to ride the hype wave?
So we need to look beyond the buzzwords in the marketing and really understand what's happening under the hood.
Exactly. And that's where our deep dive gets really interesting.
Okay.
We'll be exploring specific projects, analyzing their strengths and weaknesses, and trying to understand which ones have the potential to become the next big names in the blockchain world. We'll even touch upon some ethical considerations and potential biases to be aware of.
That's perfect, because that's exactly what I was hoping to get out of this.
Good.
It's all well and good to talk about the potential of blockchain.
Right.
But I want to know which projects are actually worth paying attention to.
Yeah.
Which ones are likely to fizzle out?
We'll definitely get into that.
Yeah.
But before we dive into specific projects, it's helpful to understand the broader trends, right?
Yeah.
Shaping the blockchain landscape.
Okay, let's do it. What are some of the key trends that we should be aware of?
One trend I think you've probably noticed just from our conversation so far is this focus on scalability.
Yeah.
Ethereum's limitations have really pushed developers to find ways to make blockchain faster, cheaper, more efficient.
Right. It's like when dial-up internet couldn't keep up with the demand, so broadband came along.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think this drive for scalability is what's pushing projects like Solana and Sui to develop completely new architectures?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so.
Right.
They're not just trying to improve upon Ethereum.
Yeah.
They're reimagining the fundamental building blocks of blockchain.
Right.
Think of it like the difference between building a house with bricks versus using prefabricated panels.
Okay.
Both can work, right?
Yeah.
But the approach changes the speed and efficiency of the construction.
Okay, so scalability is a big one. What other trends are shaping the blockchain space?
Another trend is the rise of interoperability. Remember how in the early days of the internet, different networks couldn't talk to each other easily?
Right.
We're seeing something similar with blockchains right now.
Yeah.
Each platform is like its own walled garden.
Right.
Which limits the potential for collaboration and innovation.
That makes sense. If we want blockchain to truly become the foundation of a new digital economy, it needs to be able to connect seamlessly.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where projects like AXELAR come in. They're building bridges between different blockchains, allowing them to share data and assets more easily. It's like creating a universal translator for the blockchain world.
That sounds incredibly useful, but wouldn't that also increase complexity?
Yeah.
I mean, trying to manage all these different blockchains interacting with each other sounds like a recipe for chaos.
It's a challenge for sure. But that's why these interoperability solutions are so crucial. They're creating standards and protocols that allow different blockchains to communicate securely and efficiently. It's like establishing common traffic laws so that cars from different countries can safely share the same roads.
All right, scalability, interoperability, big trends.
Right.
I'm also curious about the human element.
Okay.
What about the role of communities in this whole blockchain revolution?
Oh, community is essential. It's what drives adoption, supports development, and ultimately determines the success or failure of a blockchain project. Think of it like the early days of open source software.
Right.
It was the, passionate communities of developers and users that made projects like Linux so successful.
So are we saying that like strong community support can actually be a predictor of a blockchain project's long-term viability?
Absolutely, yeah. A project with a strong community is more likely to attract developers, investors, users, which creates a kind of self-reinforcing cycle of growth and innovation. It's like a snowball rolling downhill,
Yeah.
right? The more momentum it gains, the bigger and faster it grows.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
But with so many projects out there,
Right.
it's hard to know where to even begin.
Sure.
Are there any specific projects that you've been following that really embody these trends we've been talking about?
There are a few that stand out, yeah. One is a project called Chainlink, which focuses on a crucial aspect of smart contracts, bringing real-world data onto the blockchain.
That sounds interesting. I remember reading something about that in the research I sent. Can you elaborate on why that's so important?
Sure. Well, imagine you have a smart contract, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's designed to pay out insurance claims automatically based on weather data, let's say.
Right.
The contract needs a reliable way to access accurate and tamper-proof weather information from the real world.
Right.
That's where Chainlink comes in. They provide a secure and decentralized way to connect smart contracts to external data sources, what are known as oracles.
So it's like giving smart contracts a set of eyes and ears.
Yes.
So they can interact with the world around them. That opens up a whole new realm of possibilities, doesn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Chainlink is essentially bridging the gap between the blockchain world and the real world, you see,
Right.
which is essential for unlocking the full potential of smart contracts.
Okay, Chainlink is definitely one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
What other projects are pushing the boundaries of like blockchain innovation?
Another one that's got my attention is the Graph. They're tackling a challenge that's becoming increasingly important as the blockchain ecosystem grows. Data accessibility.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of these projects are focused on like solving the practical problems that are hindering like wider blockchain adoption.
Exactly, yeah. The Graph is addressing a very specific problem: how to easily query and access the vast amount of data stored on blockchains. Right now, it's incredibly difficult for developers to find the information they need. It's like trying to find a specific book in a library without a cataloging system.
So the Graph is building that cataloging system for the blockchain.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
That sounds incredibly valuable.
Exactly. They're creating a decentralized indexing protocol that makes it easy for developers to find and use blockchain data. This opens up a whole new world of possibilities for building applications that leverage the transparency and immutability of blockchain technology.
It's like they're creating like the Google search of the blockchain world.
Well,
Okay, so we got projects focused on scalability, interoperability, real-world data integration, and data accessibility. What other areas of innovation are you seeing?
another trend that's emerging is the concept of layer 2 solutions.
Okay.
These are essentially secondary networks built on top of existing blockchains, like Ethereum,
Okay.
to improve scalability and reduce fees.
So it's like building an express lane on top of an already congested highway.
Exactly, yeah.
Are there any specific like layer 2 solutions that you think are particularly promising?
One that's gained a lot of traction is Polygon. They're creating a framework for building and connecting different layer 2 solutions,
Okay.
which can be tailored to specific use cases.
Right.
It's like having a toolkit for creating different types of express lanes, depending on whether you're transporting cars, trucks, or motorcycles.
That's a great analogy.
Right.
So Polygon is basically creating a more modular and flexible approach to scaling blockchain.
Exactly, yeah. And they're not alone. There are a number of other layer 2 solutions emerging, each with its own unique approach. It's a rapidly evolving space that's worth paying close attention to.
This is a lot to take in. It seems like the blockchain world is moving at like lightning speed.
It really is, yeah.
But amidst all this innovation, how can we separate the hype from the reality? How can we determine which projects are actually building something sustainable
Right.
and which ones are just riding the wave of speculation?
It's crucial to look beyond the marketing and the buzzwords
Mhm.
and really understand the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
What problem is the project solving?
Right.
Does it have a clear use case? Is the technology sound?
Yeah.
And does it have a strong and engaged community? These are the questions you should be asking yourself.
Those are excellent points. But let's be honest, a lot of people are also interested in blockchain for like its investment potential.
Sure, yeah.
How can someone who's interested in this space navigate the volatile world of crypto
Right.
and like make informed investment decisions?
That's a great question, and it's one that we need to approach with caution,
Yeah.
It's important to remember that the crypto market is still very young and highly speculative. There are significant risks involved, and it's easy to get caught up in the hype and make impulsive decisions.
So what's the best approach? Should we just ignore the hype and focus on like the underlying technology?
Well, I think it's not about ignoring the hype completely.
Oh,
It's about understanding how to filter it.
right.
Don't just invest in a project because it's trending on Twitter or because someone famous is promoting it.
Yeah.
Do your own research, understand the fundamentals, and most importantly, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
That's solid advice. But with so much information out there, it can be overwhelming to know where to start. What resources would you recommend for someone who wants to learn more about blockchain and crypto, but doesn't know where to begin?
There are a ton of great resources available online.
Huh.
Websites like CoinDesk and Cointelegraph provide news and analysis of the crypto market. You can also find educational content on platforms like Khan Academy and Coursera.
Okay.
And of course, there are countless podcasts like this one
Right.
that dives deep into specific topics within the blockchain space.
That's a great starting point. But with so many voices and opinions out there, it can be hard to know who to trust.
Yeah.
How can you tell if a source of information is reliable and unbiased?
That's a critical question.
Yeah.
And it's one that applies to any type of information, not just blockchain. Look for sources that are transparent about their funding and their biases. Check their track record.
Right.
Do they have a history of accurate reporting? And most importantly, don't rely on a single source.
Right. Yeah.
Get your information from a variety of perspectives so you can form your own informed opinion.
It's like the old saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But in this case, it's about information instead of investments.
That's right, yeah.
Speaking of investments, you mentioned earlier that we need to be cautious and do our research before putting any money into crypto.
Yes.
But what are some red flags to watch out for that might signal a risky or potentially fraudulent project?
One of the biggest red flags is a lack of transparency. If a project is secretive about its team, its technology, or its finances, that's a major warning sign. You should also be wary of projects that make unrealistic promises or guarantee high returns.
Right.
Remember, there's no such thing as a guaranteed return in any investment, especially in the volatile world of crypto.
So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly.
What other warning signs should we be on the lookout for?
Another red flag is a lack of community engagement. If a project has a small or inactive community, that could be a sign that there's not much real interest or support for the project.
Right.
And of course, always be wary of projects that are heavily promoted through paid influencers or marketing campaigns. It's easy to create hype, but it's much harder to build a sustainable project with real winged value.
These are all great tips. But even with all the due diligence in the world, there's always the risk of making a bad investment. How can we manage risk and protect ourselves in such a volatile market?
One of the most important principles of investing is diversification.
Right.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your investments across a variety of assets, including different cryptocurrencies, blockchain projects, and even traditional investments like stocks and bonds.
So we're not just talking about diversifying within the crypto market,
Right.
but also across different asset classes.
Exactly.
That's a smart approach.
Diversification helps to mitigate risk by reducing your exposure to any single investment. Another important principle is to have a long-term perspective.
Okay.
Don't get caught up in the short-term fluctuations of the market.
Right.
Remember that blockchain technology is still in its early stages of development.
Yeah.
The projects that succeed in the long run will be the ones that solve real problems and create lasting value.
So it's about focusing on like the fundamentals and the long-term potential rather than trying to get rich quick.
Exactly. And as with any investment, it's important to have a clear exit strategy.
Okay.
Know when you're going to sell, regardless of whether the market is up or down.
Right.
This helps to prevent emotional decision-making and ensures that you're not holding on to an investment for too long or selling it too soon.
These are all really helpful insights. I feel like I have a much better understanding of how to approach the world of blockchain and crypto now. But with all this talk about like technology, innovation, and investment,
Mm.
It's easy to lose sight of, like, the bigger picture.
Sure.
What are the potential, like, societal implications of this blockchain revolution? How could it impact our lives beyond just, like, finance and technology?
That's a crucial question,
Mm-hmm.
and one that we need to be thinking about carefully,
Yeah.
Blockchain technology has the potential to disrupt not just industries, but also institutions and power structures.
Hmm.
It could change how we vote, how we govern ourselves, how we interact with each other, and even how we define trust.
It sounds like we're talking about, like, a fundamental shift in, like, how society operates.
Yeah.
It's both exciting and a little daunting.
It is, and it's important to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of this technology.
Mm-hmm.
We need to consider issues of privacy, security, accessibility, and equity. We need to ensure that blockchain is used to empower individuals and communities, rather than concentrating power in the hands of a few.
So it's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it
Right.
and what kind of future we want to create with it.
Exactly. And that's where everyone has a role to play.
Yeah.
Whether you're a developer, an investor, a policymaker, or simply a curious citizen, it's important to engage in these conversations and help shape the future of blockchain technology. Remember, this isn't just about making money. It's about shaping the future we want to live in.
I love that perspective. It reminds me of, like, the early days of the internet when there was this sense of, like, idealism and a belief that we could build a better world online. Do you think that same spirit is present in, like, the blockchain community?
Absolutely, yeah. I see that same passion and commitment to building a more equitable and decentralized future in many of the projects and communities I've encountered.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that makes this space so compelling.
It's inspiring to hear that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world beyond Bitcoin, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
The key takeaway is that, we're all participants in this unfolding narrative. The future of blockchain is not predetermined. It's being shaped by the choices we make today. So stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious. The possibilities are truly endless.
Yeah, it really feels like we're at, like, a crossroads right now. On one hand, there's this, like, incredible potential for positive change.
Yeah.
But on the other, there's the, the uncertainty of how it'll all play out.
Right.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about, like, the importance of informed decision making.
Right.
What does that, like, what does that look like in the context of blockchain?
Well, it comes down to a few key things.
Okay.
First, as we've discussed, is education.
Yeah.
You've already taken a great step by diving deep into this material.
Right.
But the learning doesn't stop there, right? The blockchain space is constantly evolving, so staying curious and keeping up with the latest developments is crucial.
Right. What about the practical side? Like, how can someone actually start participating in this blockchain revolution, even if they're, not a developer or a tech expert?
Well, there are many ways to get involved.
Yeah.
You could explore different cryptocurrency wallets and exchanges
Okay.
just to get a feel for how transactions work.
Yeah.
You could even try using a decentralized application or two.
Okay.
There are some really interesting DeFi platforms out there,
Yeah.
that let you experiment with lending, borrowing, and even earning interest on your crypto.
So it's about, like, getting hands-on experience and learning by doing.
Exactly, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about, like, the ethical considerations that we touched on earlier?
Right.
How can we as, like, individuals ensure that blockchain technology is used for good and doesn't, exacerbate existing inequalities?
That's where community engagement comes in. Support projects that align with your values. Get involved in discussions about the ethical implications of blockchain.
Yeah.
And most importantly, use your voice to advocate for, responsible development
Right.
and adoption of this technology. Remember, this isn't just about making money. It's about shaping the future we want to live in.
I love that perspective. It reminds me of, like, the early days of the internet when there was this sense of, like, idealism.
Yeah.
And a belief that we could build a better world online.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that same spirit is present in the blockchain community?
Absolutely, yeah. I see that same passion and commitment to building a more equitable and decentralized future in many of the projects and communities I've encountered.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that makes this space so compelling.
It's inspiring to hear that.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into the world beyond Bitcoin, what's the one key takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, the key takeaway is that We're all participants in this unfolding narrative.
Mm-hmm.
The future of blockchain is not predetermined. It's being shaped by the choices we make today. So stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.
Yeah.
The possibilities are truly endless.
That's a perfect note to end on. This has been an incredible journey through the world of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We've covered a lot of ground, from the technical details of different platforms to the potential societal implications of this revolutionary technology. But most importantly, we've explored the ways in which each of us can participate in shaping this exciting future. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time for another exploration of the cutting edge of technology and innovation.